Hi everybody, happy Friday. This is the only video that I'm making for this class. There's going to be one other video with a worksheet that I'm going to send along with this one. I just wanted to make this video because it is going to cover an assignment on Tone Savvy that is just slightly different from what you've done before. There will be two Tone Savvy assignments. There's going to be this one, which is Note ID, and there's going to be one other, which is going to be the interval ID, where they play an interval and you have to name it. But this one is going to be slightly different. Now, before I've had you answer 10 correctly, and as soon as that happens, you're done. This time, you have to complete 15 correctly. That did not highlight like I thought it would. You have to complete 15 correctly. As soon as you get 15 correct, this will end itself and it will give me your results once you submit those. This time you are allowed to have 10 errors, so you're allowed to make up to 10 mistakes, and you will also be allowed to use 10 hints if you need. This time there is a time limit, and it's going to be 180 seconds, which is 3 minutes instead of 2 minutes like you had yesterday. Now, the reason why this is slightly different is that we're going to do note names on the grand staff instead of two exercises, one on the treble clef staff and one on the bass clef staff. What the grand staff is the combination of those two things. So the easiest way to show you is just to show you. So this is what you're going to be looking at. You can see that we have the treble clef staff and the bass clef staff, and they're combined with this brace on the left. This should look a lot like all the work that we do with grand piano on flat. And what you're doing today is you have to identify notes in both treble and bass clef. So you already know how to do bass clef ID and treble clef ID. The only thing that might be a little tricky is if notes are here in the middle. So I'm going to go through this real quickly. I'm not going to give explanations unless you really want me to. If you do, don't be afraid to email me. This first one is the D line in the bass clef. This is the A line in bass clef. Here's the D line in treble clef. Here's E line in treble clef. Here's E, the top space. Okay, now this is one of the three notes that might be a little tricky. So this note I mentioned yesterday, but it's easier to see now. This is the note in between the treble clef staff and the bass clef staff. This is what we call middle C because it's right in the middle of the range of the piano. Now you might be wondering, well, does this belong to the treble clef staff or does it belong to the bass clef staff? The answer is both, really. It doesn't actually belong to either, and that's why there's this extra line here to show you that it would belong on a line, but there's not a line for it in the overall staff. But this note here, we know that this is going to be C. So when you have the grand staff and you have a note with one ledger line and it's in between the treble clef and bass clef, that's going to be C. Now, you might see a note that is in the space above the bass clef staff, so it would be like right here. That would be a B because it's the note right underneath C. And you might have the note that is right above C in the space underneath this lowest line in the treble clef. That would be D. So without more explanation, I'm going to go ahead and type C on my keyboard. That's the B line in treble clef. That is F in treble clef. That is B in bass clef. That is C in the treble clef. That's C in bass clef. That's E in bass clef. That's G in treble, F in bass, and this is going to be the last one. So we didn't get to see a B or a D, but there are three notes that exist between the bass clef staff and the treble clef staff. That's B, which would be in this lowest space. C is right on that middle line, and D would be right here in this upper space. This note, this last note, is A, and I'm going to hit that before I run out of time. So that's all you need to do for this assignment. There's also going to be an interval assignment, which is going to be basically the same exact thing as yesterday, except I'm not going to make you have to do it 3 times. You only have to do it 1 time, but this is still a repetition. It's still practice to help us out. If you have any questions, if you need any help, please, please feel free to get a hold of me. Let me know what you need from me, and I'll be happy to help. I hope you all have a fantastic Friday and a good weekend. I'll talk to you all next week.